Up until junior year, I was living the life of a robot. And it sucked. My day would start off at 4:45. My tasks planned to the second. I loved my routine. I loved the absolute certainty of it. And I loved that if anything ever went wrong, I could always just ease back into it, as though nothing ever happened. My routine was my comfort zone. My comfort zone was perfection. Perfection made it so that each day would look the same. My routine was also based off 3 principles, so all I had to do was continue to gaslight myself into believing I didn't have an eating disorder, continue to share my wisdom with the rest of the student body, and the base of all bases was to continue to get validated. So every night before bed, I'd ask myself one critical thinking question. How validated was I? And it didn't always sound like that. The word choice would change. But the idea was always the same. All I needed was attention, validation, from just the right people. These people were always smarter than me, had a gene I didn't have. This was my version of social Darwinism, and I loved it. And if I managed to get the attention of these people, then I'd be in luck, because I just earned my bread and butter for the next 2 months, which is pretty impressive considering I wasn't even employed. But that's besides the point. Because the point is that in the pursuit of this perfection, my relationship with my family was non-existent. My social life was non-existent. And my hobbies, you guessed it, were non-existent. And at the end of each day, I just sit in bed and scroll, too worried to ruin the absolute artwork of a day I just created, and too busy thinking about whether or not the next day would be perfect. And I'd always be in my head, planning out the next piece of perfection I'll pull off. I was serious about being perfect. In fact, I was never not serious. Because no one who's never not serious can ever be perfect. And in order to be perfect, I had to be serious. And in my mind, I was thinking, who would pass up a perfect person? And I was serious about being serious. I was serious about being perfect. I fell in love with perfection. And you know what else I fell in love with? The idea of love. I'm the type of person who falls in love instantly. And this love, paired with my perfectionism, was fatal. Because every time I'd fall in love with someone, they'd be my topmost priority. Each second of the day would be devoted to making them somehow notice me, stay by my side endlessly, because that's what I'd do for them. I loved them. Why would I not? And in late January of 2023, I found myself in one of these positions yet again. It was the 3rd time in 2 years had I not learned yet. Apparently not. And see, here's the thing. Every time I found myself in one of these situations, it was as though I'd pressed pause on my own life. Because I'd go through the same motions every day. I'd eat the same food, wear the same clothes, have the same reactions, think the same thoughts, eat the same food every day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I was like a robot. And when I did find myself in this position in January, I realized that I wasn't really seeking the validation of someone I didn't really know. Instead, I was looking further. I was seeking the high after the chase, the freedom. And it never came. So January turned to May, school to summer, and I was right there. I chopped my hair off twice, thinking that it would somehow change my life. And it didn't, and I'm still mad about my hair being gone. And over the summer, I'd ruminate for hours on end about what I could have done differently, and what I will do differently. And each day I'd spend my time on YouTube, scrolling, watching, trying to find that one video that's just gonna turn my life around. I was like a hamster running on a wheel, because I never found that video. And in the middle of summer, I'd achieved the highest award that anyone within the toxic self-help diaspora could ever wish to accomplish. Self-estrangement. I did it. I was perfect at being self-aware. I didn't know who I was anymore. And it's also at this time that reality hit. I was sitting in bed one day, scrolling through Twitter, as always, and I stumbled across a post which asked, "What stories are we ever going to have to tell to the generation after us?" And this reminded me of a conversation, which I turned into an argument, and naturally won, with my mom. In it, she asked me the same thing, and I lied to her. I said, "Of course I'll have stories to share. I'm wise. I'll be the hot aunt if I have to be." But inside, I was like, okay, you just lied to her. What stories are you ever going to have to tell? Are you going to tell them that you gave up your teenagehood in the pursuit of perfection? It's not as heroic as it sounds, honestly. And me personally, if my aunt gave me that answer, I would be deeply unsatisfied. I don't know about you. And it's at this time I decided that I needed a perfect dose of healthy change. So I ran. I joined my school's cross-country team thinking it would be easy. And mind you, I'd never run in my life before, except of course for playing tag, which I was a god at. And this turned out to be one of the most humbling experiences of my life. Because the second day of summer running, I had trouble completing a relatively easy hard run. And the first day of our season, I had to go home because I didn't turn my physical in. I was one of the slow runners, and I could never really finish all my sets for track workouts, and I hated running. But I loved everything that came with it. I loved that I slept like a baby every night. I loved that I had something to be busy with. But most importantly, I loved that my relationship with food changed. I finally understood the importance of eating. And I still see the effects of this change today, because I love brownies. And this change created more change. Because today, my relationship with my family is thriving, and I'm so thankful for it every day. I'm more comfortable just being and existing and talking. You know, it feels more natural. And me and my brother joke around all the time, because I can take a joke, because I'm not serious. And through cross country, I got particularly close with one of the friends I made there, Sammy, and we're still really close. And while on call with Sammy, I decided to dye my hair red before Halloween. And in that process, I ended up dyeing my hair, my neck, my ears, my forehead, and hands too. They all looked very pretty in red. They were like pearls. If I weren't so imperfect, then I wouldn't have been able to get my hands on a book titled Illuminations by German cultural critic Walter Benjamin. In this book, Benjamin writes that we're running out of stories to share. And it's the fact that we live in the age of social media that this holds so much truth. It's so easy to send a thoughtless message, and it's so easy to spend your life doom scrolling, even if you don't want to. If late January of 2023 me could have looked a year into the future and seen just how imperfect and unserious life could be, she would have fainted on that red dot. Because even where and how she fainted had to be perfect. So do yourself a favor and go touch grass, honestly. Because there's too much in the world to explore, to share, to ever get stuck in one place for too long. Learn physics, read picture books as an adult, and eat your apples with ketchup. Because it's so good. And if not for that, then for the experience. And again, I'm the type of person who falls in love instantly, with ideas, places, people, adventures, experiences. And this love, I cherish. I take it very seriously. I take my imperfection very seriously. And this is why, when I thankfully do wake up, I decide to run with my love.